talk about past life regression. When I was doing my hypnotherapy diploma, I was so excited about the concept of learning past life regression. So I'd done a bit of experimenting from books and working with witch style past life regressions, but this was the first time I was able to really explore proper past life work. And I'm not the only person that's intrigued and excited by the whole past life regression thing. One of the most common questions I get asked when I talk about my work is, are past life regressions real and can you do them? Well, the answer to that second question is so much easier. Of course I can. The answer to the first question of whether they're real and what they may be is so much harder. And that's because we just don't have enough information about the brain and about the mind and consciousness before birth, during life and post-death. We just don't really understand how what we call the soul fits into what we refer to as the body and the mind and the consciousness. We just don't know. So what is a past life regression? Well, it's a hypnotic technique. So what we're doing is we're putting somebody into a hypnotic trance, and then we're working with their subconscious to help them to access and maybe relive memories of lives that have gone before this life. So memories of past incarnations they may have had. So age regression, where we take somebody back in their own lifetime. So we may take somebody back to the point where they started being afraid of something, to the point where they started a habit, or to a memory of childhood. And we would call this age regression. This is something that's done fairly regularly within hypnosis. Past life regression is exactly the same thing, but instead of looking at this lifetime, you're looking at going further back, and you're taking somebody back through into a past life. So what will happen during your past life regression? Now, this can simply be just for fun thing. Something that we do because we're curious and we want to see what happens. Something we do because we want to know about our past. But it can also have a much more almost therapeutic content, in that we can look at the source of things like phobias, of things like particular beliefs, or we can look at the first time we started within a certain life or behaviour pattern. If you've had previous hypnotherapy sessions, it will seem almost identical. It will be a very similar process. So you start with the relaxation, and your hypnotherapist will use relaxation techniques to help you move into a hypnotherapeutic trance. So it will feel like deep relaxation, the same sort of feelings you may get from meditating, or from after a really good massage or a yoga class, where you're lying and just really enjoying that sense of really shutting down and relaxing. Sometimes I describe that feeling of hypnosis as being like the point between wake and sleep. And it really feels different for every single person. And depending on the work that you're doing within the hypnotic state will depend on how deep the hypnotherapist chooses to take you. So that feeling that you get when you're just starting to fall asleep, when you're starting to relax, when you're starting to be less aware of where you are and what's around you, but you still know who you are, you know where you fell asleep, you know that if you wanted to, you could come back to your everyday conscious straight away, but that if you did it too quickly, you might end up feeling a bit groggy. And you may wake up and say, no, I wasn't asleep. But everyone else may be, oh, well, you've been there for a while. And it can be the same with hypnosis. So you can come round and you can say, oh, I didn't feel very deep. But then I may tell you it's been 40 minutes. And you may think, oh, goodness, what happened to that time? Some people within hypnosis will see things. They will visualize, they'll see pictures. But a lot of people either don't visualize or they start a hypnosis session by using their other senses first. So you may smell, you may taste, you may feel rather than seeing. You may hear. You may also have just an idea of sensing. You may be more aware of your body, or you may be less aware of your body. Some people, when they're doing past life regression, will be really immersed in the memories. So they will be viewing it as a part of it, and it will be almost in a very, very clear dream. But not everybody will experience past life regression exactly like this. For some people, it might be more about catching snatches, or they may find that when they're asked questions, when they answer those questions, they're able to answer them from a place in their subconscious and find that the words coming out of their mouth are as interesting and unique and unsurprised and not what you would expect to that person as they are to everybody else listening. And within this past life regression, the hypnotherapist will usually be asking you questions. So you can do past life regression just for yourself and not have communication two ways. You can even do it on recordings and MP3s and videos. But the easiest way, and what makes it easier often to then really kind of go deeper into this memory, is if the hypnotherapist is talking to you as you go. So they will ask you questions and you will respond to those questions. And those responses can be really informative and entertaining. So you may choose to ask the hypnotherapist to record the session for you so that you can listen back to it later. Is past life regression real? Again, that's a question that's really hard to answer. And because we don't really have enough evidence, so there are research papers, there are information being put together about this, but we can't say yes it's real or no it's not real just yet. So a lot of whether past life regression is real or not, and whether reincarnation is real, has to come from you. It has to be a process that you go through in terms of deciding what you believe, or deciding, like I do, that I just don't know and I'm waiting for more information. So all of our memories, everything that we've experienced, is stored in our subconscious memory. And subconscious basically means the bit that we don't experience in a conscious way. So we still have access to the subconscious. The subconscious still reminds us of things like how to breathe, how to drive, how to do things that we don't consciously interact with and we just automatically do. And it also holds everything that we've ever experienced or learned, and it makes judgments based on this information. Our conscious mind basically holds the information that it thinks we need fast access to. And to go into this slightly deeper, the part of our brain that decides whether we're going to remember this now and have quick access to it, or whether we're going to place it right in the past and in the subconscious, is the hippocampus. And some hippocampuses work better than others, I say, as somebody who basically almost immediately forgets where I've put my keys. So our subconscious holds memories that we don't even realize that we had. So we start to lay down memories before we start talking. So some of our memories are from a point in time when we were pre-verbal. So for example, we may remember the conversations that were had around us when we were pre-verbal. We may remember things that we saw on TV, things that we listened to as they were on TV. Our subconscious memories have access to so many things that we may not even remember or have had the verbal skills to communicate at the time when our subconscious laid those memories down. So when we look at things that we get via past life regressions and we say, I couldn't possibly have known this, it's very hard for us to know every single TV program, every single conversation, every single book, a magazine, an article, every conversation on the train that we overheard. We simply can't make a judgment of what we could and couldn't have possibly learned in this life. But this also works the other way round as well, because it means that because we know how much our subconscious holds, we know it's perfectly able to carry a lot more information than that we think it does. So we know that it can hold all the information from our current lifetime. So why would it not be able to hold all the information from previous lifetimes too? There's also a theory that we can inherit memories from our ancestors. So we can have soul memories, we can inherit energy from those who have gone before. There's also a theory of cultural memories. There's that idea of Jung's collective unconscious. So our subconscious may have access to a lot more information than is even our past lives. So it may be that we're not remembering our own life in different incarnations, but instead we're tapping into those soul memories and we're remembering the experiences of our ancestors. And this may go some way to explaining why it seems sometimes so many people claim to be Queen Elizabeth or Cleopatra, that this is inherent in the soul memory rather than within the memory of the individual past life. So where does belief in past life come from? Well, modern past life regressions were made famous within the latter half of the 20th century, with authors and hypnotists like Brian Weiss and Dolores Cannon. So there suddenly was a huge interest in past lives and a huge interest in past life regressions. And you may have seen demonstrations on TV, you may have read books about this, and this was a real kind of bubble of interest in the subject area. But this wasn't the first connection with reincarnation. So reincarnation is a belief that's found within lots of different religions. And indeed, it's as far back as Plato, who talked about the belief in the soul going through different life experiences before the incarnation we're in now. So reincarnation is found in Buddhism, in Jainism, in Hinduism, in Sikhism, and there's also a concept of reincarnation found in some kinds of Catholicism and some sects of Islam as well. Now, these kind of concepts of reincarnation were based around almost an evolution of the soul, that thought of being able to learn and to have your next life based on the experiences of the last life. So what you did in this life made a difference the next life you may have. So we don't really necessarily have this same concept in terms of looking at past life regression. So, and we don't have a concept so much of being different animals and plants, etc., etc. So when did this concept of humans having a past life start becoming well known? Well, again, this is really hard to pinpoint, but we can take it further back than Brian Weiss and Dolores Cannon, and we can look at Gerald Gardner, who is often credited as being either the founder or the discoverer of Wicca, which is a kind of modern witchcraft. And Gerald Gardner, back in 1953, and potentially also before that, but he believed that he had lived many lives as a human witch, and that when he reincarnated, he was now searching for those people he had lived his witch lives with, and they were searching for him, and everybody who had lived a life as a witch before were coming back together again. So we know from this that as far back as at least the 50s, this concept of reincarnation was already there. Will you have more accurate memories than if you just tried to remember on your own? Well, this is certainly a belief that people have. But memory is very, very complex. So memories are fluid. They are forever changing and adapting and evolving. So every time we revisit a memory, we're inadvertently reshaping and maybe changing that memory. So if I'm talking to you and I'm describing something, I will be describing it with the hindsight I currently have. So that I'm adding to the memory itself. If I'm reminiscing with friends about a certain occasion and somebody is talking about, oh, do you remember this person was here? The next time I revisit the memory, I may add that extra information into it, not deliberately, but because my brain has added it to that memory, the way I experience that memory will be changed. And this is why police, when they interview people, particularly witnesses, need to be really, really careful that they're not leading their subject. So, for example, I can say, could you tell me what the man with the green jacket looked like? And your mind will instantly be superimposing a green jacket. So unless there's a reason for you to remember that jacket as a different colour, your memory of the event may always see that person as wearing a green jacket, which means that if the pictures come back and that person isn't in a green jacket, your eyewitness account might be disputed. So we can really lead people when we talk about things, and it's exactly the same with hypnosis. We can accidentally lead somebody. So if I take you back and I ask you, as part of your past life regression, what kind of house do you live in? Your mind is instantly remembering that it's a house and it's looking for a house. But the memory that you are in could be you living on a boat or in a tent or even in a flat. Hypnosis puts us in an even more suggestible state. I mean, this really is the whole point of hypnosis. The idea is that you're led, you're taken to ways in which you can redefine things, you can feel more relaxed. The point of hypnosis is for me to tell you, you are safe, you are relaxed. So when I say, can you hear the waves? You hear the waves. Unless your critical factor, which is basically the point that decides whether it believes something or not, throws the information out, that will be what you're following. And the sort of things that this critical factor throws out may be, if I say to you, the sea is pink, your brain may go, actually the sea is blue, so I'm keeping it blue, and you may not see the sea as pink at all. But for the majority of things, if I, as a hypnotherapist, am leading you through the journey, I've deliberately put you into a point where you can follow these suggestions. That's the whole point of hypnosis. And that means that we have to be incredibly careful when we're using something like past life regression, that we're not leading. So memories in hypnosis can be changed, memories can be formed, they can almost be shaped in front of us as we talk through. So if I say to you during your memory, do you feel sad? The likelihood is you will search for a sad feeling. If I ask you to go to a memory which is happy, you will search for a memory that is happy. If I'm making assumptions and I'm asking you questions based on the assumptions I'm making, I'm actively shaping your past life experience. But even though we're careful, past life regression is often more useful when you're looking at a particular theme. So if I say, let your mind go back and take it to wherever it wants to go, you may not be getting really useful, helpful information for the current present day. So instead, it's really useful to approach past life regression with a theme. What do you want to explore? Do you want to know why you have certain feelings? Do you want to know where a limiting belief has come from? Do you want to know why you keep falling in love with the wrong kinds of people? And are you looking for not a present life answer, but a past life answer? So having themes like this is really useful. Similarly saying, when was the first time I felt this way? When was the first time I experienced this kind of emotion or thought this kind of belief? So having a theme really does help to change the whole past life experience from fun to therapeutic. But are you actually remembering past lives? So I'm sorry, the only answer that I can give you here is that we just don't know. And it will have to come down a lot to your personal beliefs. Even if I could pull up lots of evidence to show that past life regression is real and that past lives and reincarnation are real, I couldn't tell you whether your experience that you're describing is real. And actually the same thing can be said for age regression. So there is a history of false memories within hypnosis. And a lot of these false memories do come from the hypnotherapist leading the client and the client wanting to find an answer that pleased the hypnotherapist. So if somebody's a real people pleaser and they're being asked a question, the subconscious really will sometimes just make up a story. And our past life regression may be just this. It may be the subconscious working through metaphor and storytelling, and the subconscious does do this. There are occasions when you will go through hypnosis and your subconscious will create this great kind of interesting story and narrative, and it will do this to make sense of the things it's experiencing in the present day. And it may also do this in order to help you to deal with things that have happened in your present life that are too traumatic or too painful in another way to revisit. So it may be that your subconscious doesn't want to take you to trying to figure out the problems that you have in your current relationship, because it doesn't want to go there right now. But it may instead be happy to tell a story with other characters and other metaphor, which then help you to understand what's happening in your relationship right now. So we know that the subconscious likes metaphor and storytelling. But the subconscious is also really good at finding those memories that we thought we didn't have, or finding those memories and finding new information that we couldn't recall when we were in real kind of time. So maybe the question we need to be asking isn't, are past lives real? Is reincarnation real? It should be, is this process beneficial to me? Is this an experience that I'm benefiting from? Is this something that is helping me to explore some of the issues and some of the problems and some of the patterns within my current life? If the process is benefiting you and you're gaining wisdom and information from it, or even just because it's a hypnosis session, you've had a great time and you've come round feeling wonderfully relaxed, does it matter whether past lives are real? We can't answer that question, but we can answer, would I benefit from a past life session, and would I like to have one? And if you follow the link, you will find lots more information on past lives. You'll find a big, long, detailed blog post that I wrote with much more intricate information about the theory behind past lives. You'll also find where you can book a past life session, and you'll find that we also have past life demonstrations online. So you can also book yourself into listening to and attending one of those.